We are live, Mike.
We're here. It's real. It's happening.
It is happening. We are here once
Oh my
again.
goodness. So many people are everyone. Hey, shouts to all that everyone's joining so fast, on time, on the dot. Money. I love it.
Here we go. This is what we're all here for, the future of social media. Thank you for everyone who's joining. Before we jump into anything, me and Mike always want to talk about something topical. So I'm going to jump straight in because we've got a lot to get through, a lot of conversation and discussion that we want everyone in the chat to get involved with. We will be monitoring the chat and highlighting anything. So please continue to use the chat. But we're going to jump straight into it, which is a bit of like a quiz question to warm people up.
Okay.
And it is a question to the audience. Do you know what this logo is?
That's a
We're neither going to deny or confirm what the logo is. I mean, it looks like there's a unanimous decision in the chat.
Chat's ringing. Chat's ringing off. Now I need to see the people who come in without that answer. Who's got other answers that we can go with?
Like, Nikki says no, but I feel like Nikki knows. Oh, Nikki has never seen this? Mike.
Ah, perfect. That's why we're bringing it up. That's why we're here to talk about things like this.
Yes. Because this is something which I've heard of. I've seen chatter here and there. Heard chatter here and there. But I haven't taken too much time to really understand it and get to know it. So we'll see. But we will be discussing this later on. So for anyone that doesn't know, we will be jumping into this. So we will shed more light. This is one of our panelists' predictions. So we will tease you there. And yes, we will jump into the next part of the webinar, which is just some introductions. So we are your hosts. I am Jazz. I'm from the UK. I am social and content manager here at Slate. I've been at Slate for nearly 4 years. And my counterpart.
What's up, everybody? This is Mike McGinnis coming at you live from New York. I'm a customer success manager over here at Slate. I've been here for the past 2.5 years. But prior to that, I did some social media for a PGA Tour golf tournament called the RBC Heritage. It is the week after the Masters, if anybody's keeping track, or if you're a golf person. And we used Slate, and this is like 4 or 5 years ago now, for 2 years. So I've seen it from both sides, from the client side and from the Slate side of things, and happy to be with you here today.
Yeah, which takes us nicely into Slate story. So we have some customers that are on this webinar, and we have a fair amount of non-customers. So if you don't know about Slate, Slate is actually founded by social media content veterans who are solving the problems we live through. So on the left, you can see Eric Stark. He will be joining us very soon as one of our panelists. Eric Stark is co-founder. He is ex-NFL marketing director. So he understands the role of social teams, the pressures, how intense it can be. You can see him in this picture. He is there. I'm assuming this is Super Bowl. Yes, it is Super Bowl. That's my British American sports knowledge. He's there on the field capturing content, knowing how important it is and how we need to get it to feed. And then our other co-founder is Michael Horton. He's ex-49ers video lead, so he also understands the pressures of getting out content quickly and fast and increasing the speed to feed. So many social teams are pressured to do so.
Awesome. As far as Slate goes, for anybody who doesn't know about it, we're trying to build the ultimate content creation platform for social media teams. You've all been there. You've been on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, Snapchat, you name it, Facebook, wherever else you want to go. And you've created content for those sorts of platforms. But what we do here at Slate, it's like 3 very important things. One is that we know that brand powers everything. Like your brand is one of the most crucial pieces to all of your endeavors. And that is what Slate is all about, keeping everything as branded as possible. 2, we increase that speed to feed, which is what Jazz was just talking about. When I used to use Slate on the client side, people thought that I was all over the golf course at once. which was not the case. But the speed to feed, the amount of content and high quality content we could get into the feed in a quick, short period was super helpful. And that was mainly because of Slate. And the final one is that we create content that's algorithm friendly and native to social platforms across the whole team. Because we've all seen content that's like overproduced, right? You're like, this is not it. And if you've ever made any of that stuff, you've probably seen that it doesn't really perform. But we try to kind of thread that needle, that through line, to find the sweet spot where everything is on brand and looks really good, really high quality, but also native to the platform. So that's a lot of what we are doing over here at Slate. And we got more to talk about today.
That was worded beautifully, Mike. Thanks for that. So some housekeeping items. So if anyone has any questions, please put them in the questions tab. I imagine there'll be a lot of conversation in the chat as we go through the webinar. And if you can add them into the questions tab, it's a way for us to, at the end, when we go through the Q&A, for us to clearly try and find out and answer as many questions as possible. Again, use the chat. We encourage you to have conversations. We want this to be as engaging as possible. I will be keeping an eye on the chat and highlighting anything that may come across. And also, if anyone joins the webinar and has to jump off, or anyone registered and they can know and they can't attend live, as soon as the webinar ends, you will be sent a replay. With that being said, Mike will now depart us, and he will join us later on in the webinar. It is now time for the panelists. If you can hear me, please join the stage. Hannah, thank you. Josh, thank you. Eric is here. And John. Amazing. Thanks, guys, for joining. I'll get you guys just to introduce yourselves in the order that we have on this slide. So Josh, you want to take it away?
I will do my best. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Josh Rangel. I'm a senior director of social media at Ogilvy, which I've been there for just about 3 months. And before that, I spent nearly 19 years at Golin, working on brands like McDonald's, Unilever, Allstate, Grubhub, and many others, really focusing on social and influencer strategy. Quick fun fact, I started all of the Unilever ice cream social presences back in 2008. So I've been in the game for a while. And nice to be here.
And with that, I'll go next. My name's Hannah. My name's Hannah. I'm the senior social media coordinator for the Houston Rockets, and I'm just started my 4th season with the team, actually. Moved out to Houston about 3.5 years ago after I graduated from the University of Florida, so still very early on in my social media career. Very honored to be sharing the stage with some experts today and learn from them as well. But I'm very boots on the ground with content creation. I'm a power user of Slate, use it every single day. I travel with the team doing content creation every single day. So that's kind of what my day-to-day looks like with the Rockets, and happy to be here.
And I'm John Steven Stansel. I've been doing social media for over 10 years now. Started out in higher ed, working for colleges and universities, an assistant in local government, and before moving off into my own and ending up in the entertainment industry, where I've had the privilege of working on accounts for the Amazon Prime television series Invincible, Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, film franchises like Avatar, the community management for the Shogun miniseries, and recently launched my own agency, Saturn 9 Media.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm Eric. I'm co-founder here at Slate, helped start the company about 5 years ago. And at the time I started Slate, as Jazz showed earlier on, I was a very stressed social media content creator at the NFL. I spent nearly a decade there. Before that, I spent some time doing social media management for the 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. So my background, similar to Hannah's, is in sports social media before co-founding Slate. And I'm excited to talk to everybody today. We got ice cream with Josh, sports with Hannah, Lord of the Rings with John. This is an exciting panel. I'd love for everyone else too to introduce themselves in the chat and put your LinkedIn profile. We could all connect. So that would be awesome.
Thanks for that, Eric. Thanks for that, everyone. Introducing themselves. I'm going to jump straight into it and just preface the predictions with some key learnings that I'm sure we have all experienced this year. Here are the 4 key learnings that I think have probably had the biggest impact on all of us. The emergence of AI. I feel like at the beginning of the year, AI was a bit of a buzzword and no one really knew like the definition of it. What did it mean? Like aliens. I think we've seen AI tools emerge a lot this year. The growing role of user-generated content with platforms like TikTok, Instagram Reels, user-generated content continues to grow. There's been a big increase in the priority of organic content over paid, and then also the continued dominance of short-form video. And all of these we'll see will be threaded through our panelists' predictions, which we will jump straight into. And we're going over to Hannah first. So Hannah's prediction is rising expectations. So fans demand more variety, quality, and creativity from brands. So Hannah, I'm going to go straight over to you. I've added in some screenshots and recordings of content that you've made. Do you want to jump straight in and tell us why this is your prediction?
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of like you were saying, very similar to last year's predictions that we had with obviously just new things on the rise. And I think just as the internet progresses naturally and as technology progresses, brands are pressured to compete with different creators. And just every day we're seeing these new creators and influencers come onto social media and just really create cutting edge content, especially with the emergence of AI. And we're challenged as a brand, and especially with us, where our content has such a short shelf life. With 82 games, we're having a game every other day. Actually, this month we had 4 back-to-backs in 1 month. So game, and then the next day another game. So our content becomes irrelevant very, very quickly. So we're constantly having to find new ways to provide our audience with different varieties and catch the attention of new audiences with different ideas. And I think that you're starting to see teams, sports teams specifically, kind of invest more into this. And that's really what it takes, right? To invest in your content team and really just get the buy-in from leadership. And I think that something that we saw last season in the NBA specifically was the Boston Celtics. They really invested in their content team. And if you're in the sports social media space, you probably saw a few different pieces of content that they had that went really, really viral, highly produced content, which I think is something that's newer. I think we were seeing a lot of really organic things go viral before in the last couple of years. And now you're seeing these really highly edited, highly produced things go viral again. And people are really starting to see the value in production and just that investment. And so, yeah, I think that's something that we're really trending towards in sports specifically, just the investment in that. And that's really what you're going to have to kind of lean towards to go viral and to catch people's attention nowadays because of the oversaturation of content and just so many people putting out incredible quality and variety. And so, yeah, we're really challenged as a brand and team in that way.
And one question I've got for you, Hannah, in terms of this as a new content style, because the type of content we're always having to create, we kind of have to always evolve dependent on consumers and what they demand. Is it something which you just have to test and learn these different content styles? Do you have to pitch them to anyone in the leadership team or get buy-in, or is it something which you've got pretty much autonomy and ownership to just start creating it, posting it and see how it works?
Of course. I mean, there's always levels of approvals and buy-in that we need. And it really does, as you know, and Slate does a really good job talking about this. It's not just one person. It is really a village that is creating a voice for a brand, especially one that's this big. It takes a huge team of people. And just like I was talking about, those content pieces that the Celtics made last year, those clearly took many, many people to work on those things. And it wasn't just one person that produced that content. So yes, we've got a great team that trusts, each and every one of our creators to try new things and put it out there and see how it does. And we are trying new things and evolving and listening to people and being inspired by other teams. But of course, yes, there's levels to it. So yes, I would say we're always just kind of watching what's going on, following the trends and really trying to challenge ourselves in new ways every single game.
Okay, nice. Josh, I'm going to kick it over to you quickly. I could see you nodding and agreeing with some of the stuff that Hannah said. But do you think that this is something that will have an impact on social in 2025? Before I move on to the next prediction, is there anything that you'd like to add to this?
Yeah, a big part is I'm a NBA basketball fan, and as a Chicago Bulls fan, long suffering now, it's just I'm heartened to see kind of like the evolution of kind of social media within the NBA space, and I think that Hannah's right. Like, there's so much content that I have to imagine, Hannah, you're probably more tired than the players in some instances after each game, because you're just constantly on. And so I think there is that demand, because people are, the expectation from your follower base is to see that content. And if it's not there, they're going to go somewhere else to get it. So Hannah and her team and other teams like the Boston Celtics, they have to constantly be thinking of what is the next thing, what is the next post, and those types of things. So people are demanding more from that. And if they're not getting it from the team, they're going to seek it elsewhere. They're going to go to Barstool, or they're going to go to ESPN, or they're going to go to, some other place where they can get that. So your team, who has the most access, has to be able to be there and get that content and get more of it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree as a consumer that it takes a lot more to gain my attention, but also retain it at the same time. I think that's just the nature of what TikTok has done to us. So I can support this from a consumer side, where I'm actually demanding more from brands if they want to get my attention and then also retain it. Thank you for that prediction, Hannah. I think it will definitely be one that will come into fruition. And on that note, I will jump into Josh's prediction, which is X is no longer the town square. Users choose their communities. And to preface this, we opened up with a question, which was, does anyone know what this logo is? It looks very similar to the Bird app, which is no longer. But this is Blue Sky. So Blue Sky is a social media app that was founded by ex-Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey. He started Blue Sky. It recently jumped to 20 million users, so it's now in the gap between Instagram and Threads. And one of their biggest value props, I'd say, is that they want to decentralize social media. So they want to give users more control over their data. And with that being said, Josh, let me go over to you. Why is this your prediction for 2025?
So I don't think this is going to blow anybody away, this prediction, right? I think most of us on this webinar are social media practitioners, and we've seen the writing on the wall over the course of the last 2+ years with this. But I think one of the things with X is that it is. We may agree or disagree on some of this. It is no longer Twitter. It is X. And so Twitter used to be the town square. It was the place that you went to check real-time trends, to check the news, to have those conversations. And X has really started to kind of deviate from that with just their ownership. But it still has the grip, but it is beginning to loosen because of the fragmentation of social media. So you have platforms like Threads, you have platforms like Blue Sky, which, by the way, Blue Sky is 2 years old. Everybody's like jumping on it now, like like it just was born yesterday, but it is 2 years old, honestly. And so, but people also have different avenues to go. There is no one town square when you come to think about it anymore. Twitter used to be that, but now you have TikTok, you have Instagram, you have Reddit, you have Discord, you have all of these different town squares that people can choose to go. They don't have to be, they're not being told where to go, what is the only town square. There are multiple town squares for the content and conversations and community you are interested in. And so X is no longer being able to hold that title of we are the only place that you can go, because a lot of that conversation happening in that town square isn't likely conversations that half of the user base or half of the user base really want to have or be a part of anymore. And I think one of X's kind of grips that it has really kind of kept it as that place to go is the fact that it is the place for real-time news. But I think as you start to see Reddit popular, like with its popular in news kind of subreddits, you're seeing those. People, I wrote this down so I didn't get it wrong, but 40% of TikTok users regularly get their news from TikTok. 30% of Instagram users regularly get their news from Instagram. And so that's from the Pew Research Center. So people are going to social media to get news, not just to one platform, but for different platforms. So people are migrating because of their values, because of what they're interested in from a community and conversation standpoint, and what they want to be a part of. They're choosing it. So I think part of what X had, what Twitter had, was that community, that conversation. And with everything else that is happening, there are different spaces to play that. And with the leadership at X really at odds with kind of half of its user base, I think you're going to see that fragmentation. And I think you're going to see a lot of brands testing waters with Threads, with Blue Sky, with Discord and with other platforms to see where they can kind of find that town square that is right for them and their users.
Thanks for that, Josh. Now I'm going to kick it over.
I was going to say, I and John Stephen and I have been on Twitter we're on Twitter and X for a very long time. And I think I saw a post from you, John Stephen, the other day. And I think about you posting less there. And that has been my experience as well from a personal standpoint. But I know you probably have some thoughts on kind of this path going forward. And I'd love to hear a little bit about what you think.
It breaks my heart. I love Twitter. It's always been my favorite social platform, not personally and professionally, especially for fandoms and working in entertainment properties, where for social listening, there's this great resource where I can go and dive and see what people are saying about when we release a trailer, what they get the pulse really. And I think we're losing something really special there. I hope we have a one-to-one replacement like Blue Sky, but I'm not holding my breath for it. I think whatever replaces Twitter will not look like Twitter. So even though I very much like it too.
I really feel like Threads had an opportunity when it first released because everyone at that time was ready to try something new. But to your point, Josh, I think they released it without the feature of actually tracking like a real-time hashtag. Where I remember going on that day and I think there was some sporting event happening and I searched that event to see what the conversation was. And it was, that feature wasn't working yet in Threads. And that's the only reason I go to Twitter is when something is happening that I want to see everybody talk about, mostly for me in the sporting world. I just want to read what, the community, the fan community is saying about it. And I personally had a window with Threads where I felt like I could switch to it for that. And it didn't satisfy that specific need because they hadn't released that part of it yet. I don't even know if they have that now because, I migrated off of it since then. And that was where my attention was there, So I don't know if I assume Blue Sky has the same sort of thing where you could go on and just search for a live event happening and you see a bunch of conversation around it. But I feel like Meta really missed the mark of the one thing people really do use Twitter for. And, they thought of it more like an Instagram feed that's more text-based, which at least at, its onset didn't make it stick and it couldn't replace Twitter at that point.
Yeah, I think we spoke about this last year, John, when we did this same type of webinar. And I think we said that the biggest problem was with brands and users really adopting Threads is it didn't replace what Twitter was. So people had a really big problem with they would go on it, they would assume or expect they can have the same experience and continue as normal. But when they couldn't, it was a bit like, oh, okay, so what is the purpose of me on here? I can't do everything that I used to do. And we know that has such a big impact for longevity adoption. So yeah, I think we'll see with Blue Sky. Again, I was never a Twitter person. I've never been an X person, but I may, knowing the premise of Blue Sky, may, start my Twitter journey. But we'll see what happens coming in the next year. Okay, moving on to the next prediction, which is mine. And it is vertical video remains on top, which is no newsflash to us and starts to take over LinkedIn. So to preface the topic, less than 30% of users turn their mobile to watch videos horizontally. I'm part of that 30%. Video viewers are up to 3.3 billion worldwide, with 89% of consumers saying they want to see even more video content from brands. 70% 3% of consumers use short form videos when searching for new products and services. So we know the data is there supporting the fact that vertical video remains on top. And this year we have started to see it creep in on LinkedIn. I know just from being on the platform, I'm seeing more video on there. These screenshots are from Eric. So if you haven't noticed, I'm based in the UK. I haven't seen any of this in my feed. I haven't seen like videos for you or like an obvious increase in video content. But I know Eric has, and it has been more of a conversation over that side of the world. So yeah, I'm going to kick it over to John, Stephen, because I know consciously we've already had this conversation. I know from looking at your posts, you have increased your video output. How have you found that, or how have you found the reception of that on LinkedIn?
Video has really taken off for me on LinkedIn, to my dismay in some way, because video is really it's time consuming, and there's that feeling of, you know, I can wake up in my pajamas and write something out and have it do really well. I've got to be camera ready, you know, to do a video, and I'm far from camera ready most days. You know, I think I built my Twitter account when my son was still a baby. I was like feeding the child, rocking him, and like tweeting at the same time. You can't do that and make a vertical video, really. But I will say this. You know, I was looking up my because I'm a data nerd, was looking up all my stats for my personal LinkedIn account earlier this week, and my top 5 best performing videos, both impressions and engagements wise, have been vertical videos. And for the most part, all I've been doing on my personal LinkedIn is taking, you know, TikTok videos I made like 2 or 3 years ago. I'm like, this is still relevant. And then posting those without the watermarks onto LinkedIn. And they have, like, one of them I made like 3 years ago is my top performer, this day in the life of a social media manager video. Got over 3 million views on LinkedIn. And it's just, I mean, blew me away. I'm like, so my goal for next year is both for the brands I work for and my personal account to do more video. We'll see how it goes. I am not always camera ready, and I end up with, when you put a camera on me, I get this Hugh Grant stutter going on. So we'll see how we do.
Eric, I'm going to ask you, because I know that it's something you're very aware of when you're scrolling your feed, and it's a topic that we talk about often. Is there anything particular that you've noticed about, obviously I know you scroll on Instagram Reels and TikTok, is there anything in particular that you've noticed about the video content that you see on LinkedIn in comparison to the other platforms?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I started making a concerted effort to post to my own LinkedIn about a year ago. And yeah, as this year is going on, similar to John, I'm getting more and more stressed as how busy next year is going to have to be if, you know, video has to be like a big part of that strategy. But I do think it's important, because what I'm seeing is a lot of people who are building their personal brands on LinkedIn, or doing it in a similar way that I'm doing it, kind of using it as a way to build a brand of their company through, like, you know, the face of an executive. Just getting your face out there more is part of what is building more and more trust, right? Than, you know, just the little icon of your profile picture. So I think there's a lower barrier right now to posting video on LinkedIn. It definitely isn't like the level of quality you're seeing on Instagram, or even like the level of creativity you see on TikTok. A lot of times it is the text post that is still driving the engagement, and the video could just be a talking version of the, you know, the topic that you wrote about. But I do think having video and more of that content is building more trust with your audience. They can see you, they actually feel like they know you more. And that is why people like to engage on LinkedIn with individuals, because they're building trust like one-to-one with people versus brands. So that's why I think video is going to continue to be more and more important on LinkedIn. And at least for the time being, I don't think the bar is nearly as high as the other platforms on the type of quality that you need to create. usually the first wave, it's similar to kind of Hannah's prediction of people are expecting more quality on TikTok and Reels as we go forward. Where, a year, 2 years ago, the TikTok aesthetic was something every brand was leaning into, looking raw, looking native, lo-fi. And I feel like that's kind of the trend with any new platform. You get on it first, everything's lo-fi, authentic, and then it starts to mature and, the quality has to go up to stand out. Right now, you could stand out on LinkedIn with video because not that many people are doing it. So anything will help. But, over the next year, I bet we see that quality go up and up. And I know, for Slate and for me personally, we're definitely going to be prioritizing video on LinkedIn next year.
Yeah, definitely. Now I'm going to come to Hannah, and then I'm going to go to Josh to finish off this section, because I know Josh has not a counter opinion, but he has his own experience. Hannah, I know you have posted videos before. I mean, we've partnered on content before. Have you found the videos that you've posted on LinkedIn have been, people have been receptive to them? I know they're very much an Instagram Reel, TikTok style trend, and day in the lives. Do you feel like you've had a good reception when you posted them on LinkedIn?
Yes, absolutely. But the thing for me is I'm kind of the opposite of John Steven. Vertical video is kind of like my bread and butter, and the text is kind of something that I tend to run away from a little bit, which is why, going back to when everyone was talking about Twitter and Blue Sky, I've never been a big user of Twitter, kind of the same thing as you, Jazz. Text has never been a really big thing for me, but when I found video and I was able to have some success with that, that was just really became my thing. So being able to repurpose, like John Steven was saying, things that I've already done for other platforms, for Instagram, for TikTok, and put it on LinkedIn and see the success. And it's kind of, I love that. That's perfect for me because it's no more work for me. I'm kind of the opposite of everyone else, but it's kind of just putting all the content that I create for the other platforms onto LinkedIn. And another aspect of that I really love is kind of it's made LinkedIn a little bit more casual for me, just kind of making things a little bit more personal. Before I was using LinkedIn, obviously, as everyone was, I think, like very, very professional, very clean. So it's introduced a new vibe for me on my LinkedIn. I think it's become a little bit more similar to my Instagram and TikTok. So I really like that aspect of it, but I haven't really gotten into it as much as I'd like to. This has kind of inspired me a little bit, but yes, the videos that I have posted, I've seen a really, really positive response. And I think I'm reaching a completely different audience than I am on TikTok and Instagram, and they're really enjoying it. So yes, I've seen a lot of success with it.
Yeah, I did think that. I know how some of the videos have done and the engagement you've had. So I was just curious to see, like, from your perspective, if repurposing that content has worked. Okay, Josh, I'm going to come over to you. Will you be moving to more video in 2025? I know what the answer is going to be, but I just want to hear your opinion and your experience and what you plan to do.
No, I want to be clear. The video works. Vertical video on LinkedIn works. John Steven is you can see the results there, and Hannah has seen the results there. For brands, for my clients at Ogilvy, 100% pushing vertical video. For me, it's just not who I am. Nobody really wants to see this in their feeds. They want to see the written, they want to see the memes for me. But I will say it works. A platform, when they are pushing a particular tool or product, of course, that is going to surface up more in the algorithm. So yes, vertical video is huge right now. But for me, what is authentic or kind of natural for me is that written word. Very much like John Steven, I'm a text-based guy, like just quick copy and putting it out there. Could that change for me? Yes, but right now I'm going to focus on that. I may go down in the algorithm, totally fine. Sometimes it's just an outlet for me to be for my personal creativity. But for brands and for clients, for executives, Eric, you threw in the chat, 100% vertical video on LinkedIn. If you have that plan, you should be doing it.
But I also think, just to mention that, Josh, is like if you have a particular content style that works for you and your audience, that's okay to continue doing that. I feel like there is always a constant pressure to, like, this is what's popping or this is what the algorithm is pushing. And sometimes it doesn't feel natural to jump into that new type of content style. So if you know what works for you and your audience, that's also okay to continue with that style.
Can we clip this video off though and give it to Josh to post on LinkedIn and explain that this will be the only video he's posting on LinkedIn for the next year?
We can do that. We can provide you with
Done.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, that is the end of that prediction. I think we kind of know which way we're gonna go. And it brings us into John Stevens' prediction, which is social media is becoming parasocial. Users are consuming more and posting less. And I haven't prefaced this one because I feel like John Stevens, when you shared this, it was a very nuanced prediction. So I'm basically just going to give you the floor to talk in more detail about this prediction.
Yeah, I've kind of been noticing this change over the past few years, and it kind of speaks to Josh's prediction too, as people kind of leave Twitter. I'm noticing, especially in fandoms, people posting publicly less and less, and going more where the action's happening in dark social. They're starting fan discords, or even we're seeing young people like on Facebook groups for their particular areas of interest that are private. We can't really see, and they're posting less publicly. They're still in the comments and in the replies, and that, I think there's a lot of magic happening here, but it's becoming more of a parasocial relationship where, when 10 years ago when I started in social, people were going there and on Facebook and following their family and friends and interacting there, and we're seeing so much less of that. And they're following content creators, they're following brands, they're following the accounts for the objects of their fandoms, but not really posting themselves. I think part of it is with Twitter declining, other platforms, the barrier to entry to posting is much higher. For TikTok, you've got to be able to do a video. You've got to be on camera. Instagram, you've got to have some sort of image there. So people are posting less and less in those areas. So I do think it both presents a challenge and opportunity for brands, because challenge in the fact that we're not going to have as much social listening data as we once did. It may still be there, but it's going to be in places that are harder to reach. We may have to, I have burner accounts that I join, Facebook groups on, and report on, okay, this is what they're saying about last night's episode or something like that. And if you see me there, no, you didn't. And so that presents a challenge there. So we're not getting that data, but also presents an opportunity because there is gold in the replies. If you're not jumping into your TikTok comments and comments on videos related to your product and reading what people have to say and jumping in and chiming in, you are missing out on so many opportunities. I feel like the comment section, I've seen more engagement on comments than posts in the main feed for some things that I've worked on. So I think we're seeing this shift in the way people approach social to be more of it's parasocial now. They develop a relationship with the creators and people that they follow rather than sharing themselves. The days of I remember people, when Twitter first came out, they were like, oh, I'm just going to post what I ate for lunch. Who cares? Nobody's doing that anymore, So I think we're entering a new era of social media, and I'm very curious to see what comes of it. And nervous because, man, I think anytime a big change like that happens, it's kind of scary.
Yeah, and I think anyone who works in social, we're always 10% nervous every day because so much of our job is out of our control. We don't control it. I always try and say I manage social media. Social media doesn't manage me. That's my daily mantra I try and live by. I wanted to fling a question over to Hannah. Obviously, Houston Rockets, you guys get a ton of engagement and comments. Do you find yourself, especially with TikTok and Reels now, constantly having to manage the comments or utilize and leverage comments for future types of content or having conversations as a brand?
Yes, absolutely. And I love what everyone's saying in the chat, because the first thing I do when I see a TikTok, even before the video is even over, is go straight to the comment section. And I'm listening to the video while I'm reading the comments. And the comments are usually what get me laughing the most. And I see people talking about how they go viral for comments. It's so funny how things have changed in that way. But yes, of course, we're always looking for feedback. It's very interesting how we, like I was saying before, things just change so quickly. And with games after game after game, the story of the team is really evolving at a very, very fast, rapid rate. So whether it's, comments about which player the fans are really interested in right now, what content they want to see from that player, do they want to get to know them a little bit more? Do they want to see more highlights? And we see that when we do, okay, maybe we get some comments about, we really want to see some raw scrimmage footage, and then we give that to them, and the feedback and the W admins and all of that stuff, we get to kind of engage in conversation with our fans. So of course we're always looking for that feedback, what they want to see, and what they would really engage with the most, and we do actually see that kind of pay off when we listen. So of course we're always reading those comments and using it as feedback.
Yeah, and sometimes I think brands and creators will intentionally make videos because they know it will generate certain comments, and they know that they can leverage that for then future content. Or like, even I've seen it when brands will create a video and they will set up, like they will get someone to reply to the video with a certain response so that they can then set up the next video. So they kind of stage it, even though we do our best to make it look organic. Us social media managers can be like, okay, I think someone set this up because this is too good. So I do like the way it ignites conversations and it creates that community with people, because I feel like it used to be very separate, where because consumers didn't feel like they could communicate directly with brands and feel like they could be as one, whereas now we can. So I think this will be happening more and more. So I agree with this prediction, John. I think it's happening already, but I think brands will be conscious of it even more moving into next year.
I have a question. If this continues, are more and more brands going to actually prioritize their own burner accounts to keep the comments more and more engaged, like John was talking about? Is that going to be a new thing that as a social manager you have to do? You now have to post the content, then fake comment on it? I'm half joking.
I don't know. I've seeded comments before, but I think getting in there as the brand and interacting is just so valuable. Like, especially, on the entertainment properties I work on, like when we reply to somebody from the Invincible, freak out. They are so excited that we replied to them and recognize them. So that they don't know it's me in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, in my home office doing it. They're like, Invincible replied to me. So I think that's still there, and that's still exciting for them. So I think we can leverage our without the burners, we can leverage our own accounts to keep that excitement going. It just takes the time and effort to do it. And so many of us are just so swamped. Brands need to invest a little bit more in community management now.
For sure. Yeah. Hannah, is that something from the Rockets? Because a similar sort of brand that, obviously has deep fandom. When do you prioritize responding to comments there? Do you prioritize that? Is that a big part of what you're going to try to do going forward?
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's really important, just this conversation and seeing everyone kind of saying the same thing, that the comment section is really where they go to engage, and you get such different information than even from the video itself. Our comments will have their own, or our fans will have their own comments and discussions in our comment section, and sometimes it has actually nothing to do with the video itself. So yes, of course, but just like John Steven was saying, that takes a lot of time to go through and watch what people are saying and respond to those things, and it's almost a whole nother job in itself to kind of manage those conversations that are happening. So of course it's something that we'd love to prioritize, but just like he was saying, it takes investment, it takes staff, and expansion. So I think that's every social media team out there is always looking for that, more resources, but of course it's something that we would definitely like to prioritize.
Thanks, Hannah. Okay, that being said, I'll move on to the final prediction, which is Eric's prediction, and it is AI will revolutionize workflows, but creators will stay in charge. So to preface this section, I've got some stats that I've pulled here. So from 2020, 33% of marketers use AI to generate ideas and inspiration. 28% use AI to write copy for marketing. 26% use it to create images. 25% use it to summarize text into key points, and 23% use it to translate text of marketing content in different languages. So I use certain AI tools. I'm sure some of the panelists and people in the audience use AI tools to help make jobs a bit easier, to shorten workflows. But now I'm going to kick it over to Eric because this was his prediction. So I'm going to give you the floor to talk about why you think this is your prediction.
Yeah, we couldn't have a 2025 predictions without mentioning AI in some way. Obviously, it's something I think about a lot running a tech company. But I think what's really important is, well, I think it goes without saying that AI is going to change the way social media is managed and social media content is created. But I think the way that it's actually going to kind of revolutionize how we do our jobs is helping us manage the things that are hard to manage now and giving us more free time to do our jobs well, right? And I think some of the platforms that are trying to replace social media managers through AI aren't going to work because it all comes down to the audience, right? The consumer wants authenticity. I don't think that's going to change. And, these tools, I did some posts about this to really see if this take resonated. I'm already seeing tools try to say let AI run your social media accounts and pitch this idea of, we'll read your website, we'll read your blogs, we'll come up with the media, we'll create a post and we'll schedule that post out for you. And that's just insane to think about. Obviously it would maybe make sense if you're a very, very small business and you have no other options. But for brands to kind of win in this environment, I don't think that is going to cut it. What I do think is that AI will make the day-to-day job easier, right? So we're talking about how can we up-level our quality of content creation, which was Hannah's prediction, and then how can we also have more time to comment and work in community management, which is what John talked about, and then Josh, we want to launch on a new platform because Twitter, X, it's not the same as what it used to be. We want to be more active on Reddit. We want to try Blue Sky. How are we going to be able to do all of these things at once? We're not getting 3, 5, 10 more people on our team. The best AI tools will help support that. So you can still be creative, if not more creative than you were before. And the menial tasks, like captioning a video or coming up with a creative brief off of, just an initial thought, those things are going to be made a lot easier through AI. Managing the comment section, you can imagine, is something that could be done a lot easier through AI by surfacing the things that, could be most engaging. So I think it's actually going to be a real benefit, but it's about finding the tools that really make sense and leveraging them in the ways that makes sense for your brand, and not trying to skip steps by having AI, create everything for you and just, become a robot social media manager. I think audiences will see through that. But overall, I'm excited about what AI is going to bring to our industry and what it's going to do for our own ability to have a little more work-life balance and be more and more and more creative. But yeah, I'm curious what Josh thinks about this. I know working at a big agency, you have to have an opinion on AI. So I'm curious what conversations are like, at Ogilvy, and what specifically you think about this going forward.
Yeah, and actually, Eric, I agree with everything you said. And AI was going to be one of the predictions that I was going to write about until I got into the one I actually landed on. But to be clear, AI is something all social media pros need to know, understand, get hands-on with so they can understand it. I think the biggest thing, Eric, that you hit on is the efficiency. It is going to make social media pros, marketing pros, so much more efficient with some of the remedial tasks that took hours upon hours to do. So that is the big thing. And I think one of the areas, and Eric, you hit on it, is AI tools and AI companies saying we can replace humans to do your job. And there are some aspects of it that they might be able to, but the human touch, in my opinion, can never be replaced, because the context of one-to-one interactions, like, look, I miss context in text a lot of times too. I misread it. Imagine AI misreading certain things. So there's some things that AI is just way is too far down, it's further away from what they're actually able to do. But from an agency standpoint, yes, we are diving in. There are departments, there are specific practices now, specific hires that are being developed just for AI, just so we can understand it, so we can build out a practice, so we can help clients understand it, utilize it in the best ways. And other conversations within agency world, and probably obviously in brand world too, is the ethics and legalities of using AI. When we develop an idea or something that is AI generated, are we having to disclose that, say, this is AI? Does there have to be a watermark on a post that goes out on Instagram that says this was generated by AI? So there's a lot of like legal and ethical questions about the use and ownership. If the agency develops it, does it owned by the brand? And so that is going into scopes of work. If we develop it, it becomes ownership of a brand, or vice versa. So there's a lot of those questions that we're navigating too. But yeah, from an agency standpoint, a lot of what we're thinking about is how we're utilizing it best to create efficiencies and help us be smarter and complement the work we're doing. But the human touch and the human creativity is going to be really hard to replace. We're talking Terminator 20 down the line. We're not even talking T2 here. We're talking Skynet really far down the line, but definitely something I would, I'll reiterate. You have, as social media folks, we have to know what AI is, what it does, and how it can help us, so we can understand and speak credibly to it, to our clients, to our bosses, what have you.
Yeah, sure. And Eric, I'm going to kick it back over to you, because I know that this is one of your predictions, but I think it is a shared prediction for people that work in social, and it is something which Slate also will be having an impact on moving into 2025. So did you want to shed some more light and flavor on that?
Yeah, basically, we want to talk to social media managers to learn more and more about how AI can support your role. And we've been doing that a lot over the last year, and have come up with basically a tool that's going to help teams take long form content and cut it into vertical video using the creative human touch at each step. So we put this in here to say, if you're interested in an informational conversation with me, so we can learn more about, hey, which part of the process would this help you most with? Hit us up. I would love to show you what we're building and just get your feedback, because we want to build very specific for social media managers and make sure that the human creative touch is like really baked into our AI. So yeah, wanted to get this community the opportunity to see like an early beta of it, and also just give us feedback, because it has been super helpful in building this product. So yeah, would love to hear everyone's thoughts.
Yeah, and just like Eric said, obviously at Slate, I'm the social and content manager. So when I'm creating video, or for example, this webinar, I'm going to repurpose it and re-edit it and create TikToks and Reels from it. A lot of the team here work in social. We understand the struggle. So with a tool like Shortcuts AI, we're hoping to alleviate a lot of the manual work that social teams have to do in order to keep up with the output of content that is required for them. So if you are interested and want to learn more, or we want to learn more about your workflows, register your interest, and we would love to speak to you. And on that note, we have come to the end, and we have got our Q&A. So Mike, who joined us at the beginning, he's coming back. He's here. And
what's up, everybody?
We will be taking over Q&A. Right, Mike, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Great conversation. I don't even know how many chats went through, but it feels like we hit the hundreds mark. So fantastic work, everybody here, everybody in the chat. Good work to you. This is me speaking specifically to you guys. Good work, everyone. Okay. The top question. I'm gonna start with the top question, and we're gonna go from there. We have a bunch of questions to go over, so hit me with these answers when you have them. But the top question is that people want to know about hashtags and external links. We're going to get real nitty gritty. Hashtags and external links both have been rumored to be on their way out. I don't even know who to go to for this, so I'm just going to throw it over there. Hashtags and external links. What are your thoughts?
Anyone want to
Well,
take?
I could jump in. I feel like John Stephen and I probably have a similar view on hashtags. Do you need them? No. Like a branded hashtag specifically? No. If you're at a conference and you're doing an internal, yes, maybe something for internal for tracking purposes. If you're doing some sort of UGC contest, yes, I could see that. Hashtags in general, I think the thing about it, like we'll go back to X, you put a search term in X, it's going to surface the search term. It's not just it's going to look for all of the things. It's not just going to look for the hashtag. So for me, hashtags, do you have to use them? No, it's a personal choice from a brand standpoint. If you want to use, I don't think it adds anything. External links. I was just thinking about this earlier. The concept of zero-click content. Amanda, I'm probably going to mispronounce her last name. Nadiva, I'm sorry, but Amanda, she is wonderful, super smart marketer. She kind of concepted this zero-click content concept, and it's just give people the information and the context they need in the post. That is what I espouse to my clients. Give them everything they need. One of the things McDonald's does really well, when I was working with them, is the hook was the first image from a Twitter standpoint, and in the comments they would come with more context, right? So give them content that they don't need to click out of. We've all heard this before, but nobody comes to social looking to say, oh, I wonder what brand X has to say today. Oh, and I want to go to I want to go to a website. They came there for a reason. Give them the content, the context that they need in platform natively, so they don't necessarily have to click out. If you can help it. So that is my take on it.
Awesome. Anybody else? Hashtags. And
I agree
external
100%. Words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, agree as well. Hashtags and then external links are really something that we only use when we have to, or if they're, like Josh was saying, if they're part of a grand scheme of marketing or a sponsored post or something like that. But other than that, we do try and avoid, because it's very obvious the fall off of engagement and reach. But yes, we are forced to use them in some instances still, but yeah.
Awesome.
Something for me, I'll just quickly add in. We have a term in the UK, I don't know if you got it in the US, called the ick. Like when you get the ick from something. Like one of my social media icks is hashtags, and like I always feel like it's someone who doesn't work in social or work in marketing, and they're like, oh, should I put a hashtag on it? And like hashtags don't have the same impact. So sometimes when I'll even go to add one sometimes in like the copy, and I'm like, oh no, I'm giving myself the social media ick by putting a hashtag in. So that's my stance on it. Back to you, Mike.
Stay away from the ick. She doesn't want the ick. I get it, Jazz. I get it. Next question, Hannah. I'm going to go to you to start, at least for this one, because they want to know, when you're building a social team, do you want to build by roles, like content output? Maybe it's a vertical video producer, or do you want to go by social platform? So like the role or the platform?
I love this question, because as my role specifically right now, I'm doing a little bit of everything. Social strategy, content creation. I'm a photographer. I'm producing vertical video. I'm producing TikToks. I'm making, all kinds of things. I'm designing graphics, all of the above. And so one of the things that I would love to see with my role and with my teammates' roles, just within our team in general, is to be a little bit more specific. I think a lot of the reason that I got this job and was able to kind of break into the industry is because I was able to do all of those things. And that was kind of something I really, whenever people ask me for advice on how to break into a role like this or to get into the sports industry, that is something I emphasize, like being able to do all those things. And everybody here, I'm sure, experience as a social media manager, you've been there before, kind of having to do everything. But I've seen that I think I'm the most successful, specifically in my role, when I'm able to focus on one thing and hone in on it and just really master that. And so that's really the goal with our social media team as we grow and just evolve, is to kind of give everyone their little specialties that they have. Of course, we all work together on team efforts and kind of help each other. But I think personally that there's a huge benefit to having people that focus on one specific thing and really own that and master it. And I think you can really see it externally when that is the case and what's happening. So me specifically, I would love to have the ability to focus on one thing and build a team with people who are confident in that one thing and serve their role in our team.
Awesome. Tell you what, guys, I know that a lot of people, we're up against the hour, so if anybody has to leave, there is a recording that will be coming out. We have a handful more questions that we're going to get to, so we might run over that time just a little bit. So if you have to leave, we understand. Love you, appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us today. But if you can stick around, we have a few more questions. So the next question I have is, and this I think is the case for a lot of people, probably here in the chat today, who are either solo social media managers or work for small organizations or whatever it may be, with small budgets. And so they are looking for very practically, like, what are two important things to focus on when sharing their message next year? Two important things to focus on. I'll go to, you know what? Let's go to John Steven. I think, yeah, I see he's got something ready to go.
Well, I'll just say, you know, in my career, going from higher ed, very small budgets, to the entertainment industry, like where I've worked on like the most expensive television show ever made and one of the most expensive films, it's striking. And budget, oh my God, you need a budget. It's so good to have. But when you don't have one, when you're bootstrapped, even when you have a large, you can't do everything. And you really need to set clear expectations of leadership of what you can and can't do with what you have, and let them know. I like to follow a philosophy of less but better. You know, look at, right now, if you've got a small budget and small team, Blue Sky is not for you. Don't grab your handle just so it doesn't, somebody doesn't grab it before you do, but that's it. Like, don't worry about it. Take a look this year. What accounts can I cut, right? Am I on Twitter? Maybe I don't need to be on Twitter anymore. Let's streamline it. Let's focus on Instagram or wherever. You know these better than I will, because it's this answer. Two priorities are going to be different for every single brand. You know where your audience is, and you know what your needs are. Really streamline and focus on that, and set a clear expectation with your leadership and go, hey, I read this article or saw some thought leader talk about Blue Sky on LinkedIn. We don't need to be there. We don't have that unless you want to hire somebody else, or give me more budget. Focus on doing less but better. I would rather be doing one social platform really well than all of them. So that's where I stand with it. Like, cut, and just focus in on where your strengths are and stick to that. And then once you've mastered one, then maybe have that conversation about moving and doing more. And then platform aside, focus on your strengths on content creation. If you have somebody on your team that is a wizard on video, make video your priority. If you don't have that and you can't afford to get that, if you have a strong writer on your team, focus on content. It's just take a look at the resources you have and utilize those to the best you can.
Awesome. Anybody else want to add anything?
I just want to say I agree 1,000% with what John Steven said. All of it.
Same.
Incredible stuff over here. Josh, I do have a follow-up question for you. A lot of people are asking, they're like, the no-click content stuff, it sounds very appealing, but what do we do when we have to, we have pressure to get websites out there to sell tickets or to do this thing or that thing? What are we supposed to do with that?
Yeah, I'm not, just to be clear, not saying that you cannot or should not. I think, and Hannah even put if you can at all costs, put it in the post, and put it in, where all the information they can. Because obviously one of the best things about organic social, one of the strengths about organic social is the attention and the interest and the awareness that it can generate, right? It makes you want to learn more, to take that next step. So if you can, clearly there are going to be folks on here who don't have the budget, but if you can, maybe there is a way that you can use paid to kind of target the folks who might have shown an interest, that you can follow up with something like that, give them a little bit more of a target because they've already shown a little consideration there. Mm-hmm. Some of the platforms like LinkedIn, they basically are telling you, Elon said he's going to down ranking posts that have links in them. He does not want you to leave. So maybe you're linking in the comments. I think we see a lot of folks that on LinkedIn, here's the post, check out the link in the comments so that your actual post isn't downranked. But if people are interested, they'll hopefully follow there. But again, there are going to be instances where you have to include it in, but just make sure that the content that you're serving up is of interest to people, that they're going to want to click that. You just can't put the link and just think people are going to click it. You have to do something to draw their interest enough to make them want to click it. But links cannot be all that you do, right? Few and far between. Give them the value, and then eventually you can get them to a point where you want to put something and you drive them somewhere else. So it's a test and learn, but try to provide that kind of content up front and get them interested, and then kind of hit them with the link.
Awesome. I got two more, and then we'll wrap it all up. But Eric, I'm going to go to you for this one because there's a question about accessibility in 2025, things like captions or even alt text and things like that. Can you speak to what you think that is going this upcoming year?
Yeah. I mean, it's more than ever you need to have it. And I think more than ever, there's, tools out there that are going to make it easier. I think if people may not think they're using AI a ton for their content creation, but actually every time you're like auto captioning a video in, CapCut or Canva or Slate or anywhere, like that's using AI to do that. And it's made even jobs like that, like so much easier. Like I remember back in like 2013, 2014, having to manually like burn in captions and literally like type those out, and how time consuming of a process that was. So that's only going to get better. I guess it's more important than ever, and it's going to be easier and easier than ever. These tools are going to start translating them and having them in multiple languages. And it's a good example of, the needs are piling on for social media managers, but AI is really going to help make that easier. And accessibility, I feel like, is a perfect example of that.
Awesome. Cool. I've got one last question for everybody. This is the whole room. Ready? This is for everyone. And it's from like a couple of different people in different ways. But the idea here is the balance for video production, which is one of the things we started off talking about. So John said he's got a couple of sons who are 17 and like they seem to be a little ad blind. And so the higher quality stuff doesn't like hit them the same. Or maybe the lower quality stuff, or like the more behind the scenes sort of thing, hits different. And so the question from him and Natalie is like, what is the line of professional video production versus relatability? And in this case, it's specifically for Instagram or TikTok.
I'll go first because this is something which I think I've had a conversation with Eric about in terms of like our video content as Slate and what I would like it to look like moving forward from what I consume. I'll be quick as I can. I feel like for me moving forward, content still needs to be filmed on a phone. Like you can tell if something hasn't been filmed on a phone, just because I feel like it gives, when you film on a phone, it automatically gives that like more organic, natural, not highly produced style of video. I think the difference for me is the editing. I think that's where a lot of brands and creators are having to upskill and evolve when it comes to videos. Little things like jump cuts, or like a small zoom in, or like adding like small sounds to like keep the user engaged. I think that's where videos are changing from like a more like simple style to, I wouldn't call it highly produced or like complexly produced. I'd call it more highly edited, because we know all the tricks and strategies that we need to implement in video content to ensure users remain engaged, or to ensure that we get their attention from the get-go. So that's my stance on it. It's not about like overly produced content and filming on something that isn't a phone. It's more about the editing style that I think a lot of brands and creators are having to try and change and adopt moving into next year. So that's my piece.
Anybody else want to add a piece to that?
Oh my goodness. There's my feeling on it is authenticity doesn't come from production value. It comes from how you're telling the story. I mean, you can have great production values and still be authentic, and you can film with like the cruddiest, like an iPhone 2 and still have that kind of not true, very, stilted feeling. So I think some of it comes from our content, and I think authenticity, it stems from a few things. It stems from honesty and vulnerability, and that's very scary to brands. We don't want to do that. I want to speak to John's question specifically, talking about universities. Won't high production values hurt their interest in our college? I think if you take a look at university websites and university videos, they all look the same. They're the same shots. Go look at 50 university websites, and you're going to see the banner is a young woman studying under a tree. That's on every website. So students just start to tune it out because they've seen it again and again. The best advice I got when I was a young man looking for a college was, don't listen to the tour guide. Go to the cafeteria and find the burnt out guy staring into his bowl of Cheerios and ask him what he thinks about the university. Find that person to help make your videos. Like, work with them, because that content, like, work with the students that you have, not just the ambassadors, because they're like the all-star ones. Like, find the students who can share the real life, because they're posting about your university, and your audience is just like Josh said earlier. People are going to other places to look for that content, right? If they don't get it from you. So find that speaks to them, because take that risk, because that Cheerio guy's speaking somewhere else, So be willing to it's not the production value so much as it is just being real and being different, being unique, and having that unique brand voice that stands out. Sometimes I think we get too caught up in, like, is this a low production value? Is this high production value? And, compared to like independent filmmaking, Quentin Tarantino uses great production values, and his movies feel way more real and authentic than like major blockbusters that have all kinds of CGI and, giant budgets. So it's the story you're telling way over the production, good or bad.
Awesome. That is solid. That's solid, guys. I'm not going to say anything else. I'm going to throw it back to Jazz. Wrap this thing up. This has been amazing. Zipping it. Jazz, back to you.
Thanks, Mike. So thank you everybody for attending, all of our guests for the webinar, our panelists. Anyone who had to jump off, you will get a replay straight after. But I'm pretty confident in saying that all of our predictions are either already in play or will definitely come into fruition moving into 2025. So I hope everyone's prepared and ready for another turbulent year working in social media. We will see you all very, very soon. Thank you, everybody. Bye.